Okay, good afternoon everyone. Good afternoon Abdul. Very good afternoon. Okay, what about others? Let others also join quickly. Good evening everyone. Good evening. Okay, so friends, in the yesterday class we started discussing about the enzymes. Good afternoon Priya. So we will discuss about the remaining part and we will move on to the quickly enzyme kinetics. Friends, if every one of you very quickly recall, in the yesterday class we have completely studied about the characteristics of enzymes and good afternoon everyone. And I told to all of you friends, without fail to read and remember compulsory, that is the EPO enzyme as well as the cofactors, which is most important, which every student has to remember. And we have discussed friends, vitamin derived coenzymes as well as the prosthetic groups, is it? And we were just studying about the factors affecting the enzyme activity. And friends, I hope every one of you remember this very clearly. Focus. What is activation energy? I have very clearly explained it to all of you friends. Activation energy or the energy of activation. How can we define this? How much amount, sorry, not how much actually, the amount of energy required to start a reaction. What friends? The amount of energy required to start a particular reaction, we will be calling it as friends energy of activation. Kindly don't get confused with this particular. Okay, what friends? Energy of activation means amount of energy is required to start a particular reaction. Now the question is very clear. In order to start a reaction, do you think compulsory we require energy? Yes. Without energy friends, the reaction never takes place. Okay. Okay friends, please tell me, am I audible or not? Now I think there is a fault in the video. Just a minute. What happened here? One second, I'll make it live. I hope I am audible to all of you. Okay, anyway. Okay, great. I think video got disrupted. I'll make the video live. I don't know why it is not coming. Okay, sorry. Perfect. Okay, let's continue. So what I am saying, that the energy required to start the reaction, we can call it as the energy of activation. And friends, I told to all of you that any kind of a reaction that is taking place inside the cell, there will be a requirement of energy compulsory. Friends, without energy you can't imagine a particular reaction to occur. But what is the differences between the presence of an enzyme as well as the absence of enzyme? I have told to all of you very clearly that friends, without enzyme also reaction will takes place. There is a no doubt about it. But what is the point you have to remember? Without enzyme, you can see the picture, we have to spend more activation energy. What friends? We have to spend more activation energy. But friends, with the enzyme, what you have to remember, with the enzyme friends, we can decrease. What we can decrease friends? We can decrease the activation energy. This is the major reason we will use the enzymes. So friends, this is what we were discussing in the yesterday class. What are the factors that are affecting the enzymatic activity? Please listen my statements, friends. Enzyme inhibitors. This is very important, friends. Inhibitors can actually control the activity of the enzyme. Apart from that, if the enzyme wants to be functional, what they require? They require the cofactors as well as the coenzymes. Then followed by, friends, temperature, temperature, substrate concentration and pH. These can also control the enzymatic activity. So let me quickly summarize this, then we will move on to the kinetics quickly. So friends, please listen. We already discussed that. Please listen my statements very carefully. In order to understand the velocity, or in order to understand the enzyme kinetics, every student remember one line without fail. Friends, enzymes always work at high velocity. Friends, don't forget this point. Enzymes always will work at the higher velocity. Always it will work at higher velocity. There is no doubt about it. But what you have to remember, when I add a substrate, what is happening, friends? Imagine enzyme is already working at the higher velocity. Because of the addition of the substrate concentration, what is happening, friends? Their velocity is increasing little more, and friends, it will make the reaction to occur faster. But there is a condition. What is the condition? If you continuously increasing the substrate concentration, enzymes, even though they are having the high velocity, they cannot be functional all the time. You have to remember a clear cut point, that when the enzyme works, when the enzyme stops working, the enzyme stops working when the enzyme reaches the Vmax. When the enzyme reaches the Vmax, that is an important point, when all the active sites of enzymes are filled. When all the active sites of enzymes are filled, then we can say that the enzyme reached a saturation point. Now the question is very clear. When all the active sites are filled, the answer is very simple. When the substrate concentration is more. There is no difficulty here. So all the students look into the picture, friends. Focus. Enzymes are already working at the higher velocity. Upon addition of the substrate concentration at the initial is what? V0. At the V0 they are working very nicely. But friends, if you keep on adding the substrate concentration, what is going to happen? I'll show you in the next slide. All the active sites of enzymes are completely filled. Enzyme reached the Vmax. At this point, even though you increase the concentration of the substrate, there will be no use. So do not get confused with that particular point. You can see this picture, right? Very clearly you can understand in this picture. Initially, who is more in number? You can see, friends, there is only 2 substrates are there, but how many enzymes are there? Substrates are 2, but the enzymes are 6. So friends, what you can remember, that many active sites of enzymes are absolutely free. As a result, friends, enzyme can work very efficiently. But what you have done, you are keep on increasing the substrate concentration at one particular point. Now which became more? Now substrate became more, enzymes became less. In the first condition, enzymes are more, substrates are less. Once the substrate concentration is more, all the active sites of enzymes are filled. Now even though you increase the substrate concentration, there will be no action of the enzymes, because enzymes reached a particular point. That point only we can call the saturation point. We can also call it as a maximum activity. Please keep that point in your mind. So maximum activity only we can call it as the Vmax. Don't confuse with that. Now, so what you have to remember, substrate concentration initially increase the enzyme activity, but if you are continuously adding the substrate concentration, once enzyme reaches that particular maximum activity or a saturation point or a Vmax, even though you increase the substrate concentration, there will be no activity of the enzyme. That's what you have to remember. Now, because that is important for the kinetics, based on that only Michaelis-Menten's equation was derived. The effect of pH. Friends, you all people commonly know that the enzymes which are present in our biological systems, everyone remember, the enzymes which are present in our biological systems, they are extremely sensitive to the pH as well as the temperature. See friends, when we are reading about the temperature and pH, we always use a word that optimum. What do you mean by the word optimum? Let me give you a simple example. Whenever our body temperature is higher, it creates an uncomfortable situation. At the same time, when our body temperature is drastically fall down, even that particular condition also, friends, there will be a uncomfortable situation. If we want to maintain the homeostasis mechanism, all the students remember, we should maintain our normal body temperature. So what you have to understand, even though temperature rises, even though temperature decreases, hemostasis mechanisms cannot be maintained. Similarly, if the enzymes wants to work, they will be requiring always optimum values. Even though high pH, some enzymes never work. Even though low pH, some enzymes never work. Some enzymes, basically they will be requiring what, friends? Neutral pH. Now you can ask me a question, sir, what happens to the enzyme? Suppose example, an enzyme wants to work. All the students, please listen my statement. Suppose there is an enzyme. If the enzyme wants to work, always it requires the pH of 3. Now what I have done, I have raised the pH to the 9. Now you have to understand why this enzyme is not working. That is the question, or that is the point. The enzyme is not working because, friends, the active site of the enzyme get distorted. What happened, friends? The active site of the enzyme got distorted. Once the active site of the enzyme get distorted, how does the substrate can come and attaches? Substrate never come and attaches. If the substrate cannot come and attaches, there will be no enzymatic action. Please don't get confused with that particular point. What is the point I would like to say? Even though there is a small changes, from their optimum values, enzymes lose their activity. Even it is a below optimum value, even it is a above optimum value, friends, the enzymes are going to change their activity. Kindly do not get confused with that particular point. Now all the students look into this picture. If you can see, friends, pepsin will work very effectively at pH 2, and effective means I am using the word optimum. Human amylase, which is present in our saliva, which is responsible for breakdown of the starch into amylose and amylopectin, it will work very effectively at the neutral pH. But if you look into the trypsin, which is a peptide breaking enzyme, will be working very effectively between 8.5 to 9 pH. Suppose example, if I keep trypsin at pH 2 and if I keep pepsin at 8.5 to 9, friends, there is no way both enzymes never ever active. So what you have to remember, you should not think that every enzyme having a specific optimum value. That is also absolutely wrong statement. Every enzyme never have one optimum value. Every enzyme having a different optimum values. Pepsin optimum value is 2 pH 2. Trypsin optimum value is 8.5 to 9. So it will be varied from enzyme to enzyme. Okay. So what will be the next factor that is affecting the enzymatic activity, friends? We all people know that the effect of the temperature. Friends, in order to explain how this particular temperature, listen to me carefully, in order to explain how the temperature is affecting the enzymatic activity, we will use a word called as a Q10. Here Q represents coefficient. So that coefficient is basically representing what, friends? Temperature coefficient. Increase in reaction rate with a 10 degrees rise in temperature. All the students, listen my questions carefully, listen the points carefully. Suppose example, an enzyme wants to be optimum at 50 degrees centigrade temperature. Once again, everyone remember, friends, the enzyme will be optimum at 50 degrees centigrade. There is no doubt about it. Now all the students listen. Now the temperature is at 20, now the enzyme is at 20 degrees temperature. It is a very little active. It is very little active. Now what I have done, I have increased the Q10 once. Then from 22 it reached 30. Now it is becoming active. Now from 30 to 40. Now it is becoming little more active. And once it reaches the 50, it will become optimum. So please listen, don't confuse. But when I increase to 60°, you know friends, what is going to happen? The enzyme activity completely diminished. So you have to remember two words now. What is that two words? Renaturation, optimum, then friends, denaturation, which means that, please listen, if an enzyme, friends please focus, if an enzyme is in the renaturation state, by increasing the temperature we can bring it to the optimum level. So by that the enzyme can work effectively, no doubt about it. If an enzyme is in the denatured condition, you can't bring it to the optimum level by decreasing the temperature. That is not possible. Why? Because when the enzyme is in the renaturation state, active site is not damaged. When the enzyme is in the renaturation state, active site is not damaged. But when the enzyme reached the denaturation stage, the active site is damaged. So friends, even though you decrease the temperature, you can't bring it back. That is not even possible. Because even though you reduce the temperature, already active site is breakdown or active site is distorted. There is no use of it. So you can bring the renatured enzyme to the optimum stage, but you cannot bring the denatured enzymes to the optimum level. Don't get confused with this particular point. Okay, now next and another important, please look into this, which is the generalized temperature, which is the generalized temperature for most of the enzymes. Friends, in our body, I am talking about in our body, most enzymes, the optimum temperature is about 30 degrees centigrade. And some enzymes will be active at the lower also. Correct na? Suppose example, all the students listen. There is a cold water fish. Cold water fish actually require the -degree temperatures. But all of a sudden, from that -degree temperature, we brought the cold water fish to the 30 degrees centigrade. What happens? Their entire biological system become ruptured. All the enzymes present in that particular system can be ruptured. All the active site can be completely distorted. As a result, friends, the enzymes will be completely inactive. Don't get confused. I want you to remember, most enzymes are optimum at 30 degree, but not all. You all people know very well, we have studied example Taq polymerase enzyme. It will be active up to 75 degrees also. Even certain enzymes are there, they can withstand up to 110 degrees also. It depends on organism to the organism, but the most common optimal temperature is, friends, 30 degrees. Okay, so friends, these are all the various factors that are affecting the enzyme activity. Okay, so friends, so far what we have studied. So far we have studied what are enzymes, what is the structure of enzyme, what is an active site of an enzyme, what is the active site of an enzyme, what are the characteristic features of an enzyme, and we also studied the types, that is the apoenzyme, holoenzyme, coenzyme, cofactor, prosthetic group, vitamin derived coenzymes. Now we are studying the enzyme kinetics. I'll explain briefly till Michaelis-Menten's equation, and I will give you some numerical problems which are already there in the PPT. I want you people to solve on your own. If you have any kind of a doubt, you can message me immediately. Now, enzyme kinetics. Friends, when you are reading an enzyme kinetics, according to my knowledge, you no need to read anything, nothing. 0% to read. What do you have to do? 100% you have to be understand. If you understand the 100% of the concept, how difficult the question may be, by applying a formula, by understanding a statement, we can answer the questions very easily. Okay, I'll go little faster. I want you to adjust with the flow, and it's easy, we already studied. First of all, you can ask me one valid question you can ask me, sir, why we have to study the enzyme kinetics? First question, why we have to study the enzyme kinetics? We will study the enzyme kinetics just to understand what, friends? Just to understand velocity of an enzyme. Why we will study? We will just study the velocity of an enzyme. How, what is V naught, and how the enzyme velocity is increasing when the substrate concentration is increasing and it is reaching the Vmax. So just to understand the velocity of an enzyme, friends, we are going to study the kinetics in the form of a mathematical model. And see this beautiful point. Listen this point, look into this point. It was very clearly written that enzymes are able to exert their influence even at a very low concentration. I hope you remember, even we read in the glycolysis regulation also, hexokinase and glucokinase. What is the speciality of a hexokinase? Even though glucose is present at very low concentration, the enzyme is very effective. Now, originally what you have to remember, forget about the substrate concentration. Forget substrate concentration. Even though there is a substrate is present or substrate is absent, it doesn't matter. Enzymes speciality is what? Enzymes work very effectively even at a very low concentration. But the question is very clear, my friends. When the substrate concentration is increasing, see my friends, look into this beautiful statement. The initial rate, which is V naught, is becoming linear. That's what we can see in the graph like this. It is becoming what? Linear. But friends, the initial velocity approaches maximum when you are continuously increasing the substrate concentration. This is only, we are going to read everything in the form of a mathematical relationship. So once again, don't forget this first statement. This statement is an important statement. Based on that only the velocity can be determined very easily. So what everyone has to understand, what is Vmax and half Vmax? Once again, remember the statement. I have very clearly told you that, friends, enzymes can show the better reaction at a very low substrate concentration. There is no doubt about it. Now the point you have to remember, when I add a substrate concentration little bit, suppose example, I have added the substrate concentration 2 millimolar. Friends, at 2 millimolar only, the enzyme reach its half Vmax, which means that because enzyme is already working at higher velocity, when I increase the substrate concentration little bit also, it reach half of its Vmax. Now this substrate concentration from 2 millimolar, I have increased to 4 millimolar. Then what is happening? At 2 millimolar only it reached the half Vmax. Once you increase the substrate concentration to the 4 millimolar, obviously it reaches the Vmax, complete saturation point or maximum activity point. Focus, friends. Now what I have done, I have increased the substrate concentration to the 6 mm. Is there any change in the Vmax? No, there will be no change in the Vmax even though you increase the substrate concentration at a saturation point, at a Vmax point, at a maximum activity point. See, I have written this particular line. All the students focus. Look into the line. The initial velocity, which is V naught, increases at a low substrate. See friends, because we will get this all the time, we never get the numerical questions from the enzyme. Many times we will get this statement followed by the numerical. That's all. You have to remember both. Let's consider this exam only. In 2022 February, how we got the question? In the part B, we got the numerical question. In the part C, we got the statement related question. So that's why in the enzymes and its kinetics, you have to know everything, friends. So V naught, and please listen, friends. The initial velocity is increasing at a low substrate concentration only. Now all the students listen to me carefully. Don't get confused with this particular point. Okay, focus. Now this is the V naught. Okay, this is the V naught. Friends, here we have taken different. See, we have taken the, on the x-axis we have taken the time, on the y-axis we have taken the product concentration. All the students listen. When I increase the substrate concentration to the 0.2 micromolar, you can see here this particular enzyme at 0.2 micromolar only, it is reaching the Vmax. It is reaching the Vmax at the 0.2 micromolar only. Imagine this is the enzyme A, enzyme B and enzyme C. But friends, don't confuse my words. If you look into the enzyme B, what you have to remember, enzyme B, when it reaches the Vmax, enzyme B will reaches the Vmax at 0.5 micromolar. Now what every student has to remember, I hope you are following me correctly, the enzyme B half Vmax point is the Vmax point of enzyme A. Don't confuse friends. Enzyme A is reaching the Vmax at 0.2 micromolar only, but enzyme B is reaching the Vmax half micromolar. So what I can say, enzyme B, listen to me friends, enzyme B can reach maximum. Always remember, or in other words, enzyme B half Vmax point is the Vmax point for enzyme A. Similarly, look into the enzyme C. Don't get confused. If you have confusion, ask me very immediately. Enzyme C is reaching Vmax at 1 micromolar. But what we can say, we can use the word that enzyme C half Vmax point. Enzyme C half Vmax point is the Vmax point for the enzyme B. Correct na? So enzyme A, enzyme B, enzyme C. Enzyme A Vmax is 0.2. Enzyme B Vmax is the 0.5. Enzyme C Vmax is the 0.0. So this half Vmax will become the enzyme A Vmax, and enzyme C half Vmax will become enzyme B Vmax. Don't get confused. So what every student has to understand by this diagram, every enzyme will reach, once again remember, every enzyme will reach Vmax at a different substrate concentration. That is the point I want you people to remember. So we can understand the diagram very carefully friends. Please listen. From this particular slide, every student has to follow me very correctly. Okay, just to follow me correctly, I'll simply derive that particular Michaelis-Menten equation. By that you can remember it easily. If you follow me correctly, you can understand. If you don't follow me correctly, you will get a super confusion. Focus. I have clearly told to all of you friends what is enzyme kinetics. What exactly we have to study in the enzyme kinetics. Friends, in the enzyme kinetics, we have to study the velocity. What exactly we have to study is dP by dt. This is what we have to study. Now let me define this. Let me exactly define dP by dt. What exactly it is? The concentration of a product. Every student remember, the concentration of a product with respect to change in time. My friends, please follow me correctly, don't get confused. With respect to change in time. Once again follow me. What is dP by dt? What is the P represents product, correct na? T represents what friends here? Time. So here D represents a kind of concentration. So concentration of a product with respect to the change in time. So what is the concentration of enzyme, or what is the velocity of enzyme at V0 point? What is the velocity of an enzyme at a Vmax point? What is the velocity of enzyme at a half Vmax point? We all has to understand by using this particular mathematical equations. We all people know that the initial velocity approaches at maximum at high substrate concentration. So correct na? Initial velocity is V0, maximum velocity is Vmax. When we will approach the V0, when the substrate concentration is low. When we approach the high Vmax when the substrate concentration is the high. Very simple point it is. Now friends, please listen what we have to do in this particular equations. What we have to prove, what we have to study. We have to study the velocity. If I tell to all of you, listen, if I tell to all of you friends, if substrate is increasing, the velocity also increasing, and if the substrate concentration is increasing at one particular point, enzyme reaches the Vmax. Everything I am explaining to all of you theoretically, so no one can believe. So we have to prove, or we have to study the velocity of enzyme always by using a mechanistical model. So when we are proposing a mechanistic model, everything is an assumption. That assumption, by algebra we will prove it. By that we can easily study the velocity. So once again remember, our ultimate goal is what? What is the concentration of a product with respect to change in the time? This is what we are going to study in the entire enzyme kinetics. Okay, all the students, because friends we have discussed 1 or 2 times, so that's why I'm going little faster, and I'll explain you briefly. Focus. Okay, in the previous slide we have written one point. What is the point we have written? A first point, friends, starts with a mechanistic model, then identify the constraints and assumption. So now let's start with a mechanistic model. This is a mechanistic model. You only remember enzyme plus substrate. See friends, I don't ask any question, follow me very correctly, don't miss the flow. Enzyme plus substrate giving rise to the enzyme substrate complex, we know that, which we also call it as a transient complex or the transition state. And enzyme substrate finally by either by making the bond or breaking the bond, we studied it, and it can convert it into the product. Correct na? Now this is a simple mechanistic model. I will explain briefly. Focus. Now the first point, enzyme plus substrate is giving rise to the enzyme substrate complex. Now I have asked you a question. What is the question I have asked? I have asked a question, friends. In the formation of a enzyme substrate complex, what are the factors involved? What are the factors that are involved in the enzyme substrate complex? See, we all people know that there will be a K1 is involved. There is a involvement of the K minus 1. Most of the students, they will say that sir, only K1 is involved. No, right? See, because enzyme substrate having 2 things. Enzyme substrate can convert it back into enzyme plus substrate, correct na? And enzyme plus substrate can convert it into enzyme substrate also. Don't get confused with this particular point. And what is K2 representing? Enzyme substrate can be converted into product also. Enzyme substrate can break down into enzyme plus substrate also. Don't confuse. Let me explain you in a simple way. Just pay attention. So what I can write here? I can write, friends, K1. What is K1? Every student remember. K1 is the rate constant for the forward reaction. K1 is the rate constant for forward reaction. And what is the K minus 1? K minus 1 is also a rate constant for what reaction? K minus 1 is the rate constant for the backward reaction. Now I have asked you a question, friends. In this particular mechanistic model, I have asked you a question. What is the rate limiting step? What answer you will give me? What is the rate limiting step? Whatever the step that occurs slowly. Follow me, friends, follow me. Whichever the step that occurs slowly, that particular step only, friends, we will be calling it as what, friends? Rate limiting step. Correct na? Now you tell me which reaction will occur slow. Does the K1 will occur slowly or the K2 occur slowly? Undoubtedly, friends, K2 will occur very slowly. Correct na? Now that's why we can call the K2 is the rate limiting step. Okay. Now please follow me. If you follow me correctly, you will get correctly. Focus. If a substrate, follow me friends, if a substrate wants to convert into product, if a substrate wants to convert into product, the overall velocity depends on what? The overall velocity depends on V equal to K2ES. You have to ask me very correctly. I am asking a question. Friends, if the substrate wants to convert it into product, what the total velocity depends on? V equal to K2ES. Why? Because enzyme substrate complex, with the help of K2, it is getting converted into product. Now, you only tell me, I am going to modify this equation. If you understand how I am modifying the equation, you will understand the Michaelis-Menten very easily. In order to understand the Michaelis-Menten, understanding or simplifying this equation only at most important among all. So I am requesting all of you pay attention. Okay. Now if I ask you V equal to K2ES, I have asked you, so how can you define this? How can you define this equation? This equation is very simple. How much enzyme substrate complex is needed to convert it into product, and how fast it will convert. How fast means what? That is what representing the velocity. Now what should I do? I want to do one thing. What I want to do? I want to write a modified equation of this. Please follow me friends, follow me correctly. I want to write a modified equation for this. Why should I write the modified equation? You can ask me, sir, why we have to write a modified equation? We have to write a modified equation at one particular condition. What is the condition I have given? I have given a condition, very simple condition I have given. I have given a condition, high substrate concentration. That's all. I have asked every one of you, friends, please modify this particular equation at a condition where the substrate concentration is high. Now you only modify it. If you understand clearly how to modify this equation, concept is crystal clear. Now what is my condition? If you remember the condition, concept is clear. What is the condition? High substrate concentration. At high substrate concentration, what the V will become? V become V max. Of course true. We all people know that more the substrate concentration, V will become V max. And at a high substrate concentration, what will become ES? First of all, what is ES? You have to follow me correctly. How many enzymes are required, or how many enzymes are bound with the substrate? You have to follow me very correctly. I am using a word at a high substrate concentration. What is ES? How many enzymes are going to bind with the substrate? We all people know that all enzymes will bind, because substrate concentration is high, my friends. Then all the enzymes can bound it. There is no doubt about it. Then ES will become what? ET. Very, 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 very simple. Now friends, instead of using the word K2, we always use the word Kcat. Why we will use the word Kcat? Friends, if the rate limiting steps are one or more than one, if the rate limit, if the number of reactions are more than one, or if the rate limiting steps are more than one, instead of using the word K2, we will always use this particular Kcat. See, Kcat only we can call, friends, turnover number. Now you only tell me how I am going to modify this equation in a very simple way. All the students focus. What is our original equation? Our equation equal to V equal to K2ES. And I asked all of you, friends, please modify this equation at one particular given condition. What is the condition that I have given to all of you? High substrate concentration. I have given you a condition. At a high substrate concentration, what is going to happen? V become V max. Correct na? Then what is this? ES become ET. Correct, right? K2, we can call it as the Kcat. Simple. Now how can I write this particular V max now? So V max equal to K cat into ET. Very simple. Suppose if I asked you, friends, write the equation for the K cat, what you people will write? K cat equal to V max by ET. That's all. So friends, if you remember these equations, it is very easy to interpret the Michaelis-Menten equation. I hope you got it very correctly. How V equal to K2ES modified into a different equation at a high substrate concentration. You have to know this compulsory. Now let's go for the Michaelis-Menten equation. Okay, whatever I have explained you, everything was written here. Velocity. See friends, please never ever forget this. If you forget this, we can't calculate this. Every time we have to remember this without fail, because what we are studying is the product concentration with respect to the time. So never ever forget this under any circumstances. Okay, what are the various assumptions of the Michaelis-Menten equation? Friends, in a given part B question or in a given part C question, even you all people can get the question even from the assumptions of the Michaelis-Menten equations also. All of the following assumptions can be followed by the Michaelis-Menten except. So it is very important you people has to remember the Michaelis-Menten equations assumptions without fail. Now please remember K1 K minus 1 greater than the K2. That is, first step is fast and always at equilibrium. Yes or no friends? Of course true, right? We all people studied K2 is the slowest step. I am explaining you briefly, pay attention. K2 is the slowest step. Then which are the fastest step? K1 is also fastest step and K minus 1 also fastest step. Even though it's a backward reaction, the step is the fastest step. So what I can tell, K1 and K minus 1 are the fast steps when compared to the K2, and they will maintain the equilibrium all the time. There is no doubt about it. So that is what the first one. Very simple assumption. You can prove it just like that. Now look into the second assumption. What they are saying, friends. This is second assumption is the most important assumption. Second and third are the most important assumption. Based on the second, third, fourth, based on the second, third, fourth assumption, we can derive the Michaelis-Menten's equation. So I am requesting all of you focus it very correctly. dEs by dt nearly equal to 0. That is the system at the steady state. Now in other words, if you ask me, sir, please define. If you ask me, sir, what is steady state, please define it. What I can tell to all of you, that friends, the enzyme substrate formation minus the rate of breakdown nearly 0. That is called as, what we can call it as a steady state. Rate of formation of enzyme substrate minus rate of breakdown of enzyme substrate, which is 0. We will prove it, don't worry at all. Okay, now friends, please don't get confused. Now I am going to ask you a very simple question. What is the question I am asking? Friends, rate of enzyme substrate complex depending on what factors? You have to follow me very correctly. Rate of enzyme substrate complex depending on what factors? I can say that they are depending on the K1, they are depending on the E, they are depending on the S. Correct na? Now friends, please understand what is the other way of writing a free enzyme. This is what enzyme? Free enzyme. Correct na? How can I write this particular free enzyme? I will write it in a simple way. So every student pay attention. Enzyme T represents total enzymes minus how many enzymes are attached to the substrate. Simple, right? ET represents total enzymes minus how many enzymes are associated with the substrate. So how can I write K1? So K1 into ET minus ES into S. This is what reaction? I will write it once again, don't worry. This is the rate of enzyme substrate formation. Now my second question to all of you friends, what are the rate of breakdown depends on? You only tell me rate of breakdown depends on what? Rate of breakdown depending on the enzyme plus substrate as well as the K minus 1. Correct na? Now how can I write rate of enzyme substrate breakdown? K minus 1 ES, because rate of breakdown is depending on ES also and K2S. Yes or no friends? So rate of breakdown depending on the K2 also, rate of breakdown depending on the K minus 1 also. Now my friends, now what I am going to do and what is our ultimate goal? Our ultimate goal is to derive the Michaelis-Menten equation. In order to derive the Michaelis-Menten equation, one second, let me take the another slide, by that I can write it easily. One second, just one second. Okay, so everyone follow me very correctly. I will write once again, don't worry. So rate of enzyme substrate, focus friends, focus. Rate of enzyme substrate formation equal to enzyme substrate breakdown. Just now I have derived a clear cut equation that rate of enzyme substrate enzyme substrate formation depending on K1 ET total enzymes and enzymes associated with the substrate into substrate. Simple. And rate of enzyme substrate breakdown depending on K minus 1 enzyme substrate plus K2 and enzyme substrate. Correct na? Very simple it is also. Now what we have to do? We have to do the simplification. Now is there any necessity you have to do the simplification and you have to remember all this? No, you don't worry about it. So you no need to remember any kind of a simplification. I will directly write the equation, you remember that. So enzyme substrate equal to ET. After simplification I am directly writing my friends. You no need to remember the simplification. Whatever the equation that I am writing, I want you people to remember this without fail. K2 plus K minus 1 by K1. This is what we people get upon simplification. Once again remember, upon simplification of the enzyme substrate formation into equal to enzyme substrate breakdown, upon simplification of these two equations we will get this. Now please remember, what is the significant point every student has to remember for the exam point of view? Please remember, this is only the point every student has to remember. Here K2 plus K minus 1, it is basically representing what? KD. Yes or no friends? It is representing the dissociation constant. I hope you are following me very correctly. Dissociation constant nothing but rate of breakdown. And what does this particular K1 is representing, my friends? It is representing the Ka. Yes or no friends? What is the Ka? Association constant. Correct na? What is association constant? Rate of enzyme substrate formation. I hope every one of you understand that very clearly. Now this entire equation only we will be calling it as the Michaelis-Menten equation. Now friends, what I am doing, I am considering, please follow me friends, I am considering this entire term which is Michaelis-Menten constant, nothing but Km. I am considering this entire equation as the Km. So I will substitute the Km. Now I am just erasing friends. If I substitute the Km, what I am going to get it? All the students pay attention. Substituting Km. Everyone follow me. Substituting Km. What we get? So enzyme substrate equal to enzyme total substrate by entire equation I have replaced with the Km into substrate. This is a simplified equation, a very simplified equation. Because friends, now let me tell you what is ES here. Listen, every student, remember, we all people studied one important statement. What we have studied, one important statement, I have told to all of you. Friends, why we are studying the enzyme kinetics? We are studying the enzyme kinetics to study the velocity. Once again, remember, we are studying the enzyme kinetics to study the velocity. So remember, when the maximum velocity occurs, everyone remember, when the enzyme is saturated. So what do you mean by that? Enzyme substrate equal to, enzyme T. Yes or no? Why we are representing T here? Because all the enzymes are completely occupied at a higher substrate concentration. Hence, what will become Vmax? Vmax equal to K2ET. Yes or no, friends? Obviously yes. Now, how can I write the ET? Enzyme total equal to Vmax by K2. Very simple. So now what I am doing? I am just substituting from V0. Everyone remember? I told you, right, friends? Now we are defining. This is our entire equation. Correct, na? This is the equation which we have studied. For this only we have written the modified equation. Now what the ES will become? ES will become V0 by K2. So we got one equation here. We got one equation here. Now what I am doing on other hand, I am just replacing with the mm. So I am just replacing with the mm. Focus, all of you. Just focus. So V0 by K2 equal to Vmax by K2 substrate by what I have replaced with Km. Km plus substrate concentration. So what is happening, my friends? K2 is getting cancelled. When the K2 get cancelled, then V0 equal to Vmax S by Km plus S. Correct now, friends? So this is what we can call it as, friends, Michaelis-Menten equation. A very simplified equation. If you find any kind of a doubt, ask me very immediately. Even you look into the PPT once, by that you can understand the equations. Whatever I have explained to you, all of you, everything was written very briefly in the form of a equations. Whatever I have explained you, everything I kept in the equations. Rate of same thing. Rate of enzyme substrate formation, rate of enzyme breakdown, we just simplified it. Upon simplifying, we got that one particular equation. Then what I said, this entire equation I called it as the Km. So we have substituted the entire equation with the Km. This is what we got it. Correct na? Now we discussed very clearly that, friends, we have to read everything with respect to the velocity. Yes or no? We have to read everything with respect to the velocity. So ES equal to ET, hence Vmax equal to K2 ET. So I just substituted that equation. Hence what we got is the Michaelis-Menten equation. I hope, friends, every one of you understand this without confusion. If you have any confusion, watch the recorded once again and ask me without fail. Okay. And friends, I am not discussing the Lineweaver-Burke plot as well as the Eddy-Hofstee diagram, because we don't have time, and if you find the time, then read it. If you find the time, I am requesting all of you, read only this table. Read only this table. For the LB plot, Wolfham's plot, Eddy-Hofstee plot. If you find the time, then only you revise it. Okay. Otherwise, I am requesting all of you, please solve all the questions that are present here with respect to the enzyme kinetics without fail. Okay, any kind of a doubt, ask me very immediately, because all the questions answers also there, I already solved once. Okay, if you have any kind of a doubts, ask me. Okay friends. Okay, now tomorrow once again we will meet at 11 a.m. we will finish that part B and we will move on to the part C. Okay, and at 3 p.m. I will start the unit 4 very fast. Okay, so we will start tomorrow with the cancer biology, very important topic for the part C. Okay friends, that's all for now. If you have any kind of a doubt, you people let me know. Okay friends, that's all for now. Thank you all. If you have any doubts, please let me know, please message me. Okay, thank you.